Okay, all right. So, yeah, in case you're wondering why I sounded like, a bit stilted and nervous and whatnot during the first video, well, I'm just going to be very frank. I'm very nervous about this job fair thing. You know, as I said before, I haven't been working for a year, and, yeah, having to deal with a medical issue and, a bunch of other things. I took a year off, and now I'm kind of get back into looking for a job and all that stuff, and having to explain these kind of things. Like, yeah, I prepared myself. I know what I'm going to say to potential schools that are going to hire me and ask me about why I took a year off, blah blah blah. Yeah, I did prepare for this stuff, and you try your best to prepare, but at the end of the day, sometimes there's still a bit of nervousness. Hopefully with the meet and greet that I'm going to be doing this evening, get kind of some of the nervous jitters out of myself. Kind of just work it all out, and hopefully things will go well on Saturday morning. Hopefully, I can get a couple interviews on Saturday, um, and then from there, see what happens. Yeah, this particular job fair, going to this one and the next two that are going to be in mainland China that I'm going to, it's going to be quite pivotal in that, you're, because I'm right now, getting up there in age. I wouldn't say I'm like, old, but still, you know, yeah, not that you're, not that I'm like, super old or something like that, but still, you know, with my, how should I say, career track record, you know, there are some things that aren't exactly on the up and up. Uh, you know, I got to explain that. And yeah, well, okay, let's just be honest, okay? The thing is that, career wise as a teacher, did I make a decent amount of money? Yeah, sure, I definitely made a decent amount of money. And, my savings and whatnot, I actually have a quite a um, deep bankroll in terms of my savings. I could actually hold out um, and be unemployed for another year, and I'll still have plenty of money in the bank. But at the same time, it's like, what? Um, Being unemployed is not just about, the money, but it's also, you got to have things to do, sitting around not doing much of anything. Well, and all you're doing is just job searching, and everyone, how horrific job searching is nowadays. It just kind of like, grates on your nerves and whatnot. So, anyways, there's that, and also, career wise, just because of the way, like, how I entered the teaching profession and the timing in which I entered the teaching profession, um, I tended to do more jobs where, like, okay, I stay at a school or a tutorial center for about maybe 2, maybe 3 years at the most, but then like I move on and do other things. The reality is that I've worked in a lot of places where basically the classroom realities do not match the supposed policies and visions that the school leaders have set out. Um, a lot of times I've worked in places where there was a lack of strategic focus and a lack of proper execution on the operational end of what it takes to run a school and whatnot. And, as a teacher, you being the person on the ground, you have to deal with the consequences of um, inadequate leadership. Let's just put it that way. Every day, and it takes a toll on you. And for me, the whole struggle of trying to find a place where yeah, I could work at a school for the long term, and the kids that I teach in middle school, because middle school is the level that I specialize in. Being able to say, okay, hey, the kids that I taught in grade 6 and grade 7, uh, you know, I ended up seeing them graduate from high school, and I've never had that. I've haven't really worked at a place where yeah, I can stay there for the long term. So trying to find a job where I actually have long term prospects, you know, not easy. And to be quite honest, yeah, had a very very long record of failure in trying to find a school where there's clear strategic direction, where there's operational stability, where there's actually support, proper support for student learning, and proper support for the teachers so that they can do their best. Yeah, this is something I've been looking for a very long time, and hopefully I could succeed in finding that for in the upcoming job fair. Well, I did my prep, you know, did all the things I need to do more or less for preparation. I've written out what I'm going to say during my interviews and my pitches to the prospective schools I'm going to see. Got all my clothes and everything all ironed out. Um, I just need to go out and quickly get some additional copies of my CV printed out. You know, got all that stuff ready to go. So yeah, when I head out to this teacher meet and greet thing, which is going to take place in roughly an hour and a half, hopefully tonight things will go off to a good start. Meet some other teachers, meet some principals, and so on and so on. Then Saturday morning, when it's time for the job fair itself, hopefully there'll be schools that are interested in me, and whatnot. Yeah. So here goes nothing. And that is that.